Hello, welcome everyone to our episode 7 in the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Ninja Show. My name is Heike, I will be your host, and today I'm joined by Jesse. He is my expert when it comes to automation. Jesse, please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Jesse Esquivel. I'm a program manager on the Defender for Endpoint engineering team.
Thank you so much for being my expert on today's show. So before we go into the show, a reminder for everyone, there is an option for you to ask questions during the show. Please use it. You can also mark a little checkbox to ask a question anonymously. Some questions we will put them in public to get other people also to see the question and see the answer. So please feel free. Also a reminder, go to aka.ms/ninja show and share your voice with us. So feedback is welcome. Please use that option. And there's also some other little gimmicks. So there is a bonus content. There's also previous shows, all on aka.ms/ninja show. So now let's go into automation. So automation is part of Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, and you can turn it on and let our automation do investigations and close alerts for you. And how that works is what we are going to discuss. So Jesse, if you would have to explain someone in a very short summary, what is automation, how it helps, and then we dive into it.
Automated investigation or remediation is a capability in Defender for Endpoint that automatically investigates machines based on the context of an alert that is fired in the Defender for Endpoint console. The automated investigation runs on the device and does a number of things. It looks at processes, files, IP addresses, persistence mechanisms, things like that. And the goal of the automated investigation is to remediate any additional threats that are found and automate the closing of the ticket and the self-healing of the device.
So Jesse, I know there is different options. So there is a semi-automated option as well as full automated. Help me understand what the differences are.
Sure. So the semi-automated response requires a human to go in and approve the remediation actions based on the result of the automated investigation. The full setting does not require interaction from a human to go ahead and remediate any entities or threats found on the device after the automated investigation has ran.
So I guess, looking at your organizations and how they're using it, we probably would recommend to not have any wait time and suggest to use fully automated for the majority of the devices and then have a subset of, machines. You probably have better examples to put them in semi-automated. Can you share a little bit your experience how that is mainly used with our customers today?
Sure. So typically we encourage customers to use the full automation level on their device groups. This doesn't require human interaction, and this really helps SOC analyst fatigue, so to speak. It really helps with a lot of low alerts, informationals, maybe even some mediums. Once an alert is fired in the console, the automated investigation starts. If it finds any additional threats, those are remediated at that time, and then the ticket can be closed. And all of that doesn't require any human interaction or effort. So we really encourage our customers to use the full auto IR remediation level. The semi-remediation level, of course, does require some approval for those actions to take place. So that does require some interaction with somebody to go into the portal and approve the actions that need to be done to remediate a device. So the other good thing about full auto IR is that it's always working for you as a customer. It works for you 24/7, so there's no human required for that entire process to take place and for the automated investigation to remediate those entities.
There's no vacation, there's no bio break, there's no lunchtime. It's just working 24/7. So what would be examples that customers would put some machines in semi-automated or exclusion? Like, I guess there could be some I don't know, sensitive machines that can't, I don't know, whatever isolation or whatever the remediation would do impact business, or what's the
Hmm.
cause, the reason here?
Sure. So something in that scenario would be like a device on a manufacturing floor or a kiosk device that's critical, maybe an ATM machine, things like that. Cash registers, that run in retail centers. So, customers may look at setting a semi-automation level on those types of devices.
Cool. And do you think you can show us in the console somewhere where these kind of configurations are being done? How you can select the different modes as well as pick the devices that should run in semi or full lead?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's go.
So let's do that. Let's take a look here. Let's go in under settings and endpoints, and then we're going to go into device groups. And you can see here on all these device groups, we've got a number of device groups here. You can see the remediation level column where the remediation level is set. So you can see that we've got a mixed bag here. We've got some with no automated response. We've got quite a few with full. We've got some with the semi-automation level. Let's see if I can find, so this one is actually my device group. So we'll take a look at this one.
You basically have your device groups and you can apply those or configure those settings per device group. That's how it's done.
Correct.
Awesome.
So you can see here on this specific device group that I've clicked on, the automation level is available here in this drop down so that you can select which one is appropriate for that specific device group.
Good. So now you also mentioned before it's doing its investigation and remediation on the machine level. So thinking about our XDR solution, Microsoft 365 Defender, of course we are talking about Endpoint here, but in general, the automation is also available on the Microsoft 365 Defender level and then would remediate like threats in mailboxes or take care of compromised user accounts and other entities that are part of our XDR solution. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct. So and let's see if we can get over to it here. So we're going to take a look at this specific incident. So this was on a machine that I have that I triggered an invoke expression for file this load of Mimikatz into this device. An alert was triggered in the portal, and because this device is in the Prosware device group in Defender for Endpoint and it's set to full, the automated investigation started immediately on this device. So if we take a look here on the incident page, we can see we've got one alert, one device, and one user identity associated with this specific incident. As you mentioned, if there was a mailbox involved, that mailbox would be listed here under mailboxes, and then also as part of the automated investigation here. So if we look at the investigation and we take a look here, let's kind of drill into the investigation page. So this is an overview of the automated investigation. Over on the left, you can see the start and end, time date stamps, and then the duration that it took for the device to complete the automated investigation. It looks like for this specific automated investigation, it was 36 minutes.
But it did a lot in those 36 minutes. So if you look at all the various entities that were analyzed, as you said, like it's files, processes, registry, like there is a lot that I would doubt a human analyst could analyze in 36 minutes.
Absolutely. And this is a point that I really try to drive home with customers when I'm having conversations about automation and automated investigation and remediation in Defender for Endpoint. So if we zero in on those entities analyzed down at the bottom, it's over 2,544, it looks like, across many different categories of files, processes, services, drivers, IP addresses, and persistence methods. So you can see the total count of each one of these buckets, so to speak, and then the aggregated count is over 2,000. So you can imagine how long it would take a human to go through, and I'll show you a more in-depth look at this as we move through the tabs at the top. But you can imagine how long it would actually take a SOC analyst or a human to actually go through and analyze all of these items under entities. As you said, Heike, it's definitely probably going to take a lot more than 36 minutes.
And I also, maybe it's the time quickly to talk about the automation is not just looking at that alert and that one entity that might be related. It's actually trying to understand way more. Like, let's say there is an IP address involved, right? It would, of course, look at the IP address. It would have a look at all the tenant data, if other devices communicated with that IP address, if it's associated with a C2, if there is whatever. Like, there's so many additional questions every time we have an answer. We would then go and also investigate the next questions that come up because of the answer that we got, right?
Yes, absolutely. So, based on the context of the alert that's fired, in this case, it was a specific malicious payload execution from Mimikatz that's out on GitHub. So, based on the context of the alert that's fired, the automated investigation and remediation service will turn around and say, okay, based on what this threat is on the device, these are the things that we need to go look at to ensure there's nothing else suspicious or anomalous happening on this device. If we find additional threats, we'll remediate them at that time. And the goal of this is to give the machine a clean bill of health and give that self-healing capability to the SOC.
And another option that was made available a little while ago, but it wasn't there from the very beginning, is to then auto-resolve alerts when a remediation was successful. I remember this is somewhere in advanced settings where you set up all the things. You can make that little toggle to say auto-resolve alerts, because very important for our zero trust approach, where we use conditional access and these kind of things. So an alert on a device sets the device at a higher risk level. Conditional access might have been configured in the way that a machine with a medium risk can't access corporate resources anymore. And if the alert is still not resolved, even though the threat is gone, the user would still not have access to the corporate resources. So I think that's an important part, that people should toggle on auto-resolve alerts when remediating. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and that goes back to the capability working for the SOC 24/7. So if we set it to automatically resolve the alert from the time that that malicious payload or malware or suspicious activity is generated on the machine and the alert is fired, the automated investigation is started. We investigate the device, look for additional threats, remediate them if they're found, give the machine a clean bill of health, and then automatically resolve the alert. So that entire process from the moment that a threat is detected on an endpoint all the way until the alert is actually resolved is fully automated and done for you by the product itself.
That's awesome. So let's go back to the demo and continue where we left. So we looked at the overview page, which shows us the incident that triggered the investigation with all the with all the alerts in it, the machine, or if it was users and mailboxes, like all the entities. What else do we have there?
The next tab would be alerts. So in the alerts pane, you would see the alerts that are associated here with the specific automated investigation. And in this case, it's just a single alert that was generated by the action that I did on the device. The next one would be the devices tab. And so these are all the devices that are associated with this automated investigation. Keep in mind, an automated investigation can have multiple alerts and multiple devices associated with it. And let's take a look at evidence. So this one is pretty interesting here. So the evidence is where you're going to find any additional threats that were remediated on the machine. So for this specific one, we can see it's PowerShell.exe, which is actually a Microsoft binary. And the verdict is no threats found, because it is an actual Microsoft signed binary that was just used in the execution of the attack. So this exe itself doesn't actually have a threat within it. It was more of a conduit to execute the malicious payload on the device. If we move on to entities, and I'm just going to collapse this little left side pane here just to give us a little bit more real estate on the screen. If we move on to entities, we can see this is where we can drill in to the specific entities that are involved with this automated investigation. So each one of these over on the left under files, processes, services, drivers, IPs, and persistence methods, you can actually drill into each one of these buckets, so to speak, and then look through and see all of the 1,383 files that were interrogated and investigated as part of this automated investigation. We've got a couple of things here where you can add additional columns in the view, and of course you can set it to 30, 50, or 100 items per page. And then this page also has filters that you can use to filter based on what you want to see in that specific view. And the same thing for processes. So you can go through, if we take a quick glance at each one of these, you see there's 161 processes. Same thing here, your filters are available, the number of items per page. So you can see, there's quite a bit here going on, and you can see the large number of entities that was investigated as part of this investigation.
And I can see the result of the investigation right there as well, and then also what kind of, if needed, action was taken.
That's correct. So each one, you can see the verdict here. As you can see, they're all set to no threats found. You can actually click on one, you'll get a flyout on the right. It'll give you a little bit more information about that specific entry in the list.
Do I see somewhere a summary of what the automation remediated? And do I have some basic auditing where I can actually just see what's going on?
Yes, so if we take a look at the log tab here, and this is a really cool tab to go through. So this is a log of actually everything that the automated investigation did. So you can see there's quite a few actions in the action column. We're getting services, we're finding files, we're getting active connections, we're getting file information, IP addresses, web addresses, right? File metadata. There's all kinds of interesting things here. Checking for persistence mechanisms. There's all kinds of interesting things that are going on in here. And there's actually some really good filters on this page too. So if we click on filters, you can see here, there's action type, there's the action, there's a status of completed or skipped, and then there's description. So you can actually go in here and filter the view based on what you want to look at. Any threats that are found are going to be here under evidence, right? And so as part of this automated investigation, when it completed, you can see here the investigation number is 5343, and this one completed with no additional threats found. So in the evidence tab, you can see there's only one entry. It's PowerShell.exe, like we mentioned earlier, and there's no threats found on this one. So for this specific automated investigation and initial alert that was fired, the initial threat was of course caught by Defender AV. We alerted on it in the console. We started the automated investigation. We found no additional threats on the device, and then we shut down the automated investigation.
This is actually a good example. So even, if an alert gets triggered because AV found something and blocked it or remediated it, automation is still making sure that nothing else happened on the device, right?
Correct.
No analyst would probably have the time to go through all these. AV successfully remediated something and then still go after and have a look. But I think automation helps here to make really sure that nothing else was left on the device.
Right. Yeah. And so this is really super helpful for the SOC, because this capability is always working for them. And this gives the SOC analysts more time to focus more proactively on things like threat analytics, looking at new and emerging threat campaigns and threat actors and how your environment postures against those threats, looking at things like threat and vulnerability management data to see what your exposure is across all of your endpoints for vulnerabilities, and of course proactively threat hunting across all your endpoints using advanced hunting. So using the auto IR capability really helps customers to take care of a lot of the low-hanging fruit and allow them to kind of shift their mindset to a more proactive mindset.
Yeah. Do you have another example for us a little bit where some remediation maybe happened on an endpoint so we can look into that?
Sure, let's take a look. So for this specific automated investigation, you can see that it's actually still running and it's pending an action. So if we take a look at the graph here on the left side, it's pending an action for 7 hours and 16 minutes and counting. So,
but it's waiting for a manual action by someone approving something, or it's waiting for something else? How do I know?
Correct. So if we take a look down here under investigation details where it says status pending action, remediation actions require review and approval. And if you look here over on the right, you can see it's pending approval for this specific entity, helper.exe. It's running as a process. If we scroll over, we can see entity is running a malicious file. This is process ID 9692 on the machine, it looks like, and it's pending approval. So this one would actually require somebody to come into the automated investigation, into the pending action. Let's collapse this over here, and then approve the file pending quarantine right here. So this is a good example of why you want to set your device groups to the full remediation level. This investigation has been waiting over 7 hours for somebody to go into the console or to the M365 Defender portal and approve this pending action.
Yeah, that's probably a good example of why you should always make sure that the majority of your devices, but yes, it's a demo, so we want to show that there is two options, fully and semi always requires someone to approve the remediation actions suggested by our automation. So what else do we want to show our audience when it comes to automation? What else do we want to talk about?
So there's a consolidated view here if we go under Actions and Submissions and then under Action Center. So if we go under Action Center, we can see these are all the pending automated investigations that are running here. And you can see there's quite a few action types here that are listed: soft delete of emails for Exchange mailboxes, quarantine of files, which is the one that we just actually looked at the top, a forced password reset for a specific mailbox here. And then if you click on the History tab at the top, you can see the history for Action Center. And for the past week is what it's set to. You can set this to 30 days or 6 months. You've got additional columns up here that can enrich your view depending on what you want to see in your output. And then, of course, you can set it to 30, 50, or 100 items per page. And much like every other page or most of the pages, I should say, in the M365 Defender portal, you've got your filter over on the right pane where you can filter the view by a number of different things to really customize the view and how you want to see it or what type of data you're really looking for.
So the Action Center is basically my place to go to see what actions need or what task needs some actions or like some manual input, as well as my audit log or something where I can see all the things that were done on machines or users, like entities in my tenant.
Correct. If you're set to full auto IR, you'll see them under the History tab. But if your device group is set to semi, then you'll see them under the Pending tab here. And this is where an analyst can go in and select a specific entry in the Pending tab and then approve the action here over on the right, or reject.
So that's really cool, Jesse. Do you have another example maybe of an automated investigation that was investigated and something was actually found and also remediated?
So if we take a look at this automated investigation, we can see this one took about 50 minutes to complete. If we look under investigation details, the status is remediated. Malicious entities found were successfully remediated. So looking at the graph real quickly on this one, we've got 2,605 entities analyzed. So let's zero in on the evidence tab here. I'm going to collapse this, give us a little bit more room. Let's zero in on the evidence here on this specific investigation. So we can see here, let's take a look at this bottom one. So we can see this entity was pre-remediated by Windows Defender. And then let's take a look at the next one in the middle. This one was also pre-remediated by Windows Defender.
See, this is our defense in depth, like all working together.
Right, so these were remediated on the pre-breach side by the Defender AV engine. And when we started the automated investigation, it looks like we also found one additional file here that was malicious. And you can see as part of the automated investigation here, it quarantined this file successfully.
I know you have also, I think, the opportunity to start and go hunt from there and go in advanced hunting and search for additional evidence, or when would you use that option to go hunt?
Sure. So let's take a look at this file here. So if we want to take a look at this file, maybe we want to understand if this file exists on any endpoint in the environment or any endpoint that's onboarded into Defender for Endpoint. If we take a look here, we scroll down a little bit here, we can hit the Go Hunt button that you see right here.
So it's basically pre-writing a query for you specifically for that entity that was found, or like suspicious, malicious, deleted, whatever the entity was at that point.
Correct. So what it's done is it's pivoted me directly into advanced hunting with a pre-canned query. You can see on lines 2 through 4, we've got some file hashes in here and the file name. We've got a specific time date stamp, and we can right away run this query. Let's say we'll run it for the past 7 days. We can run this query and immediately start threat hunting for this specific file across all of our endpoints. So it looks like there's no results here in this specific hit, but you could actually go back 30 days if you wanted to and start looking for that file in the environment.
Yeah, I mean it's a demo tenant, so that was probably a little while ago, and there's no file, or maybe the file isn't even there anymore because it was remediated. So whatever the results are, but the option to basically go and start a further investigation on your own is really great option to just go hunt, and you have some pre-canned queries for you ready to go. Good. So
Right.
Jesse, we talked a lot about, we looked at all the things like the overview that gives you a great summary of what happened, what triggered, what was investigated, the involved entities, and all these things. We looked into all the fly out windows and the additional information that we can have. We looked into at the very beginning how someone can set it up and how it's being configured, as well as you have the action center that gives you again an overview of all the remediation actions that were taking place, all the things that automation did, as well as if you have something in semi-automated, you will see the pending actions sitting there waiting for a SOC analyst to actually go in and allow the remediation. I think that was a great overview. I can't right now think of anything else we would like to cover. Is there anything that you would like to say as a final statement around automation and advice for our attendees?
Sure. So like I said before, we really encourage our customers to set their device groups to full. In fact, now when you create a device group in Defender for Endpoint, the default selection is full. So, this is a move for us to be at a default setting for auto IR when a device group is created in Defender for Endpoint.
Yeah, making sure it's on and there is no first fright. People might not know it's already working, and then you can go from there and see if you need to exclude some machines. Okay, so Jesse, thank you so much for walking us through, showing us some examples of how an automation looks like for everyone who wants to try it out as well. Yeah, remember there is our tutorial section not in the evaluation lab, but there is tutorials and simulations, and you can actually download some malicious, suspicious files onto your devices for kicking off the automation to try it out yourself. Again, thank you, Jesse, for being my expert on today's show.
Sure. Thanks, Heike.
Yeah, and everyone else, thank you so much for attending this episode. And don't forget to share your voice on aka.ms/ninjashow with any comments, suggestions, feedback. We would love to hear from you how you like this show. And then see you all in episode 8.